Welcome to The Green Urbanist, the podcast for urbanists fighting climate change. I'm Ross. Today's episode is a conversation with Virginia Cinquemani. Virginia is the founder and director of Green Gorilla Consultants, a unique training and coaching company focusing exclusively on empowering sustainability professionals to become the most confident and assertive version of themselves, and to successfully accomplish their sustainability projects even when their stakeholders think sustainability is a waste of time and money. Virginia is a qualified architect, project manager, and BREEAM AP with a lifelong passion for sustainability. She is the author of Sustain Able: How to Find Success as a Sustainability Professional in a Rapidly Changing World. This is an excellent book and a practical guide for those who have a passion for sustainability but can't seem to make an impact. In this episode, Virginia shares advice for anyone who's trying to integrate sustainability into their work and projects but is coming up against barriers. So whether you're just starting out on your sustainability journey or you're actually an experienced professional, this episode is relevant to you. Virginia explains how we can communicate better about sustainability and how we can actually sell sustainable solutions to clients by appealing to their needs and concerns. This episode is all about the soft skills that we as professionals need every day, beyond just technical knowledge. She also gives advice for urbanists who don't necessarily have a sustainability background, but who want to bring it into their work. The key message here is just get started. No matter how small or imperfect your first steps are, just get started because we need everyone working towards this and learning. You can buy Virginia's book, Sustain Able, on Amazon, follow her on LinkedIn, and check out thegreengorilla.co.uk. You can also follow this podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and links for everything are in the podcast description. So, please enjoy my conversation with Virginia Cinquemani. Hello, Virginia. Welcome to the Green Urbanist podcast.
Hello, Ross. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. Just to begin with, it would be great if you could tell us a bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Virginia Cinquemani. I'm the director and founder of Green Gorilla Consultants Ltd, which is a training and coaching company focused on sustainability professionals. And the fancy strapline is that we empower sustainability professionals to make an impact. Because we do training, we do coaching, we help sustainability professionals to become better communicators, better negotiators, better salespeople. Why not? Sellers of sustainability, of course.
Great. Well, we're going to talk, I think, a little bit more about sales later on, because That's a really interesting topic. Okay, so one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the podcast is I think my listeners are probably maybe in two groups. So you've got the people like me who are urbanists, planners, urban designers, architects, who are not necessarily specifically trained in sustainability, but who want to be making a positive difference through their work. Mm-hmm. And then you probably have another group of people which are the trained sustainability professionals. And so we both have sort of different challenges, I suppose. So if we take that first group, what advice could you give to someone who is an architect or a planner? They're working in the industry and they realize they want to be, making doing sustainable work and making a difference, but they're having trouble just making that jump.
Absolutely. I should say I was one of them. Because my previous career, my previous life feels like I was an architect, and I spent a few years working as an architect. But then I moved on in time towards more the coaching element and the training and the soft skills stuff. So I know exactly how it feels to actually have that passion, but not necessarily having the maybe the knowledge yet. Of course, I trained in the meantime. But the first thing that I would want to say to these people is that actually sustainability is a way of thinking. I love the definition that one of my tutors back in the days at university said is actually a matter of common sense. Sustainability is common sense. It should not be a separate add-on to the normal way of working. So it's a way that you think, okay, how can I reduce the impact? What are my materials doing to the planet? Where am I procuring my the elements of my project from? Are they produced in areas where the working conditions are not great? So it's purely really thinking, what is the best possible way I can use those materials? I could use the normal elements of my work, and in a way that have a lower impact on the environment and on people as well, because we know sustainability is not just about the environment. Right. But I would say, if you really want to start from somewhere, and this seems too overwhelming, there is also a lot of low-hanging fruit, I would say, the no-brainers, the easy to implement, the low-cost options. But it does take a little bit of self-analysis, I would say, as a professional, to think, okay, what is the impact of what I'm doing? Because we go automatically sometimes, especially in construction. I know, because, again, I spent many years there. We work a little bit always in the same way until something innovative comes along, of course, and disrupts. But usually it's a very conservative industry.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'd say the first step, which I think, that's another first step. One thing that I've seen done more and more now, because the technology allows that to do it quickly, is actually LCA, so life cycle assessments, so that you really understand, the cost of materials, but also where they come from, how long they're going to last for, so that you don't have to manage them all the time or change them regularly. So I'm talking, for example, to the architects out there. LCA is a beautiful tool that really helps to assess in the first place, so you can measure before you can change, of course.
Right.
And then, be innovative and think outside the box. I think that's another suggestion I would have. Work with others that might have done it before. Think about how it can be done in a better, more innovative way. Perhaps, there's plenty of information out there, and, willing people to help, I suppose.
That's a really good point, is, this point that you have to understand the problem first before you can actually take action. So
absolutely, I think is really the first thing would be, and the main thing would be asking the question. Okay, where my materials come from? How is the building built? I mean, a building, but even a city, because if you're talking to urbanists, where do the materials come from originally? What is the and that is a simple question which sometimes even professionals don't have the answer to.
Yeah. I mean, do you think it's necessary for people to go out and get, more formal education in sustainability and get accreditations and that kind of thing? Or can you learn a lot on the job as well?
I'd say, I think back in the days, having another degree and another badge, like, Boy Scouts was important. I think it's still important, because there is a lot of competition in the out there. But at the same time, we're so lucky to be in the information age. Everything is at your fingertip. And, LinkedIn is a place that I absolutely love, where I'm learning so much every day. I think it's a bit of both. If you're completely clueless, then, of course, doing some formal course can give you the basics. But there is so much that can be learned on the job. And really from other people. Especially now with all this online stuff, lots and lots of really interesting webinars and courses, even free courses. So there is definitely an advantage in living nowadays in that sense.
Yeah, I think with the pandemic as well, I've seen a lot more webinars, events that would happen in an event space, with maybe 50 people, now are webinars with 500 people, which is great.
And all around the world as well. So you can access stuff in America as well as in Australia, depending on time zones, but so much more choice.
Yeah. And I'm a big believer in, you don't have to get permission from anyone to learn. It's obviously going to a university, you get the formal structure of a curriculum and you get access to the library and the professors and everything. But if that just seems like it's not realistic for you, if it's too expensive or you don't have the time, I mean, you can read all the books that are on the university course, much cheaper than getting a degree.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I think the difference is that university gives you the structure, like you said, and possibly the commitment to do it.
Yes.
But if you're still committed to learn and to grow in whatever, in sustainability, as is in any other profession, then I'm sure you will find the time and the books, like you said, the people to speak to, and without the formal institution around you. There's plenty out there that you can learn from.
So what about a situation where, you might be trying to be a bit of a climate champion within your organization, within your team? It's one thing for an individual to change their mindset. It's another thing to try and turn the course of a whole company or a whole team. What are your thoughts on that?
Look, even in the sector, in the sustainability sector, there are plenty of people that feel they don't make enough of an impact, and that's why, to be honest, I've started Green Gorilla, because I could see people struggling, sustainability professionals, really having a hard time thinking, this is so obvious for me. How come it's not obvious from my clients or from, or my colleagues even? So I think there are techniques that can be used and everything, but the main aspect I would say that people should focus on is forget your technical knowledge, forget what you know, and focus on your clients, focus on your colleagues. What is the issue? What is the need that they have? Start from there. If you focus 100% on them and addressing their issues using the sustainability solutions that you have, then the thing is completely different, because it's not going to be trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. It will be actually finding a bespoke solution for a specific process and project and problem, or with a P, and showing them the benefits, which again are going to be tailored to the issues. Because we find more and more that professionals with some knowledge of sustainability or any technical knowledge go ahead, using that as a badge of honor, which is great. Of course, you studied, of course, you know your stuff, but clients don't care. Clients want a solution. They don't care how many courses you've done, how many badges of recognitions you have. The important thing is that you can help them. So that's why the selling comes into place, and that's why I'm so adamant about that. And it's not necessarily, actually, it's not at all pushing something that people don't want. We have this idea of the old salesperson, who's conning other people and trying to trick them into buying something that is useless or broken or they don't want. No, here we are trying to sell sustainability as a solution for major problems that we face. In construction, in infrastructure, in whatever we are, we're dealing with. Sustainability has a way of being, a no-brainer. So it is a solid, long-term, low-risk solution for most problems. So we are actually using sustainability as a way of helping our clients. We are helping them. We're not conning them in any way. And that's why I really invite people that work in sustainability to come out of their technical shell almost and think, actually, I'm here to help. I am a salesperson in the best possible way. I'm here to help my client to address their problems. This is how I'm doing it.
Yeah, I've had a previous guest on the podcast tell me that, the solutions to climate change, they need to be solutions to other problems, and then they just happen to be more sustainable. So we were talking in that context, we were talking about public transport, and he was saying, to get more people using public transport, it isn't that you have to make it more sustainable, it's that you have to solve their problems, and then, by the way, it's more sustainable as well. So
Absolutely.
dealing with clients can be a similar thing. Like, we can make so many improvements and improve the bottom line and do all these great things. And by the way, it's also more sustainable.
That's what I was saying before, is the common sense solution. Sustainability, and I think it's there is a misconception. Sustainability is a word that has been misused a lot, and we talk about greenwashing in that sense, which again is a bit of a jargon word, but it's when everything is painted green, everything looks sustainable, but in the end, when you look at the details, maybe it's not. And so it has a bad rep also of something that only tree huggers do. When people, maybe they had a place in the 70s, but not nowadays. I think the world has moved on. So you are allowed not to use the word sustainable or sustainability. Just think of the solution, think of the best common sense solution for any problem. And do you know what? It's going to be sustainable, I bet. So there is I completely echo what your previous guests said. It's just a term that is there to say, look, we need to live within the boundaries that we have, the physical boundaries. We can't create a new planet. We're already using 1.7 planets at the moment. It just makes sense to try and reuse what we got. To try, like we used to do back in the days, when we used not to be such a disruptive species on this planet. Reuse, repair, try and come up with innovative solutions. Maybe not do anything at all sometimes is the best solution, is the best sustainable solution. But the thing is that you don't have to use the word. You can just show them a solution.
That's a great point. It's really good. We actually haven't even mentioned your book far. So you have an excellent book called Sustainable.
Yes, thank you. I forget to mention it, Gina.
I'll plug it for you because I'm reading it at the moment and I'm really, really enjoying it. I'm getting a lot of benefit from it. So I definitely recommend people to check that out. And I'll put a link in the description of the podcast as well so people can go and grab that. And you devote a whole chapter in there to selling or sales techniques for technical people, for sustainability professionals. And you mentioned earlier about having to sell to clients. Now, most people, I think, when they hear the term sales, they just want to run away because it's like, I didn't get into sustainability to sell things. Like, it's the opposite of that. I want to be, I want to be doing the right thing. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, again, I completely understand that because probably I was there at one point in the past and I've seen lots of people and we want to advise our clients. That's what we want to do. But a salesperson does exactly that. Now, again, going back to the idea of the salesperson back in the 80s with a little, suitcase with these samples in there, we're not there anymore. The world has the internet, and people can actually look things up for themselves. So you're not the only one as a salesperson to have that knowledge in your pocket. And that's what all the salespeople used to do. Use their unique knowledge to con other, well, not everyone, of course, but, some bad salespeople used to use that advantage they have over their clients to push solutions that weren't right or that were, pure tricks, right? But nowadays, if we just shift our mindset towards, I am there to help my clients sort them, their problems. I am there to curate the information that is out there and is abundant. And if our clients start Googling, how do I make a bridge? I mean, honestly, obviously they're not going to get anywhere. But you are there to advise them. And that's what a salesperson does, advise on the best possible way, the roadmap that they have to, the clients have to follow to have the best possible solutions and outcomes. You're there to show them the advantages, the benefits, so the growth. So in three main categories probably in sustainability with lots and lots in them. The growth, the return on investment, and the risk management, which I think are the three main ways sustainability can help. So you literally are there, but also if you think about it, we sell every day, all day long. We negotiate our way through life. And and it's also in the book, when I ask my children, who are quite little, to eat just one more scoop of greens, just one more. And I use techniques like, okay, do it for mommy. I go to the emotional level. Or if you don't do it, you're not going to watch TV afterwards, so you're not going to have pudding. And that's the threat and the fear element. And these are all perfectly legitimate sales technique that people use in different ways at different levels, but we do it every day. We don't even realize.
Right.
We might not exchange money in that sense, but selling as the way of influencing others is something we do every day anyway. So we might as well get friendly with that term and think, okay, sustainability is my product. My technical knowledge is my product. How can I use it in an ethical way, of course, ethically, to support my clients to find a solution to their problems? That's all. That's all you need to do.
Yeah. Okay. There's a great quote in the book where you say the most effective salesperson is a curator of the abundant information available out there. Yeah. So is this idea, as you said, that the information is available. It's not that, you're the sole proprietor of sustainability information. It is, largely public knowledge. It is out there if people want to go looking. But the difference is that you're going to package that up in a narrative and in a way that, is convincing to people and is attractive to people. So it's a lot of it is just good communication skills, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's all connected. As you know, because you read in the book, there is a whole chapter about communication and good communication. Because again, technical people, we fall into the trap of showing off our technical knowledge, using jargon, because it's impressive, because then, other people know that we know. But actually, if you think about the best communicators in the world, the big leaders, you will see that they do not use jargon.
Yeah.
They are talking to the masses. They are there to carry a message. And that's what we need to do, guys. If we're carrying the sustainability message, we need to use plain language. And I know it's difficult to step back sometimes because we use, circular economy every day or embodied carbon and that sort of, phrases or terms that for us are second nature. But think about your client. There might be a business person, not necessarily a technical person. They might know, but chances are they don't. And then they might feel shy or, they don't want to look like fools. And so they don't actually ask you, sorry, what do you mean by that? Because it seems you use it so casually that they should know. And then you get into this, miscommunication or things that seems quite alien to them. And the human reaction to change is to perceive it as a threat. That's the normal human reaction to change. So when you introduce something new, you have to expect resistance. So how do you avoid that? By establishing a rapport with the person you got in front of you, avoiding jargon, trying to look and think in the way they do. So maybe not look like them, but definitely think about the way they speak, they think, what language do they use, what are they looking for, what's in it for them? That's the main question. What's in it for them? Do they want to make money out of the project? Fantastic. Use sustainability so they can make money. That's fine. Or are they looking to enhance their reputation because sustainability is something that everyone is doing now, partly for that reason? Absolutely. Use that as a way of enhancing the reputation. You don't have to use big words. You don't have to, as you said before, just do it. And then, by the way, this was a sustainable solution.
Yeah. Also, a thing I hate is acronyms. Within the planning industry, we're just always talking in acronyms, which is very exclusive. And I actually had a great example as well as a transport expert that I work with sometimes told me that he always tries not to use the phrases pedestrians and cyclists. He says people who walk and people who cycle. And that's just a very minor shift. Because when you say the word cyclist, many people in the UK anyway would think of a sporty guy in Lycra on a road bike just flying down the road, and you think most people really don't like those people because they're very flashy and they
in the middle of the road stopping the traffic.
Yes. Exactly. But when you say people who cycle, that could be your grandmother or your kid, cycling around the neighborhood. So it totally changes. So I love that, and just being a bit more mindful is something I still need to work on the podcast, is being a bit more mindful the specific words that you choose? Because it actually makes quite an impact.
I give a nice exercise in workshops that I do on communication and sustainability, and is, could you pick, for example, whatever technical subject you work with the most, whether that is, again, I don't know, renewable energy, circular economy, whatever it is, and try and explain it to a 5-year-old.
Right.
How do you do that? And then you will see the blank faces when they start thinking, maybe a 5-year-old wouldn't understand circular economy. How am I going to explain that to them? So I think it's a great exercise, because surely you're going to deal, mostly with the grown-ups, hopefully in your day-to-day job. But just step back, just, makes you focus on the other person more than on you. And that, I think, is a great exercise to really help them. Eventually, this is what we want to do, is really help them to address their issues. And the first thing is listening and speaking to them at the same level. Yeah.
Fantastic. You mentioned 3 things earlier on in the conversation I just wanted to come back to. They were, what was it? Growth, resilience?
No, return on investment and risk management. Resilience comes into it in a way. It's the 3 main advantages of sustainability, and then you can break it down as much as you like. But it's effectively return on investment, whether people decide to do projects in a more sustainable way because they will sell quicker. Say, for example, in the case of buildings, it is demonstrated that you can rent them better, so with a higher premium. Sell them quicker because they tend to be healthier, so people want them. There is more demand, etc., etc. So the demand is growing. So there is return on investment. There is risk management, which is a big one for sustainability, especially now that we can see the effects of climate change or the climate crisis on places where our supply chains are. Mostly. So in India, for example, in other countries there, where you can see how climate change is impacting the work of people. And therefore, insurances now have started to demand, a more sustainable outlook, and lenders don't lend money unless there is a plan for things to be sustainable. Because they now realize that actually long term, only sustainable assets will last. It will be resilient. That's where resilience comes in. Will be resilient to the changes in climate. So for these sort of big institutions, they already opened their eyes to the reality of things. So, but also sustainability, the smaller, if we don't want to go at that higher level, but it's a protection for reputation of companies, because when you have a sustainable project, you tend to do more due diligence. You tend to plan long term. You tend to look at the life cycle assessment. So how long things are going to last, and how, the quality of things. So, and the companies involved tend to do less mistakes, less rework. So it does help the companies involved to have a better reputation in the market.
Yeah.
And finally, there is growth. So growth, it can be perceived as marketing, for example, or even, companies that adopt a sustainability policy, for example, tend to attract the best employees. Universities that have a sustainability policy tend to attract the best students, and so on and so forth. So there is a growth element and an innovation element in there as well. Yeah,
that's really, really good. I feel like I need to just write all this down, but I'll listen back.
Oh no, it's in the book. You just need to read on.
Okay, it's in the next chapter. I haven't gotten there yet.
It's towards the end of the selling chapter, if you want to know.
That's great. Oh, that's really, really insightful. I think it's like inviting people just to think a bit more like a business person, and think about, people who are running businesses, they obviously have to think about these things. That's how you keep a business afloat. That's how you keep it growing. And so if you can just tap into these really basic things that are probably quite obvious for a business person, but maybe maybe not so obvious for
Not to
a tree hugger
everyone.
like
I
us.
think lots of people are firefighting every day, and we know because we work in this world anyway. And so you might not have the time or the headspace to plan long term. But if you do,
True.
if you think about the future of whatever work you're doing, then sustainability is literally the no-brainer. There is the obvious
Yes.
way of doing things.
It's incredible when you think like, the word sustainable means something that can go on, into the
Yeah.
future. Like, it's incredible to think that anyone would not want their business to go on into the future. Like,
exactly. Going back to the terminology, you can see how the shift has already happened in certain areas. So, for example, and again, this is an example that I got in the book. There was a big trade show here in the UK for probably, some of your listeners have been there, EcoBuild. It was the biggest show of sustainable or eco-green building in the UK. Now it's called Future Build because because eco or eco doesn't quite resonate anymore. It's tired as a term.
yeah.
So future building, being responsible, all of this are actually synonyms of sustainability, but they probably go down better with clients. If you say,
interesting.
let's future-proof your building, that's much better than let's make it sustainable.
Yeah. Brilliant. You sound quite optimistic, I would say, about the future. Do you think we're moving in the right direction?
Hello. Okay, so I am an optimistic person by nature. Like literally, this is me. But it's a learned optimism, I would say,
Right.
and not that I've always been like this. I am a firm believer in the intelligence of the human being. And, one thing that, for example, really, really caught my attention recently was looking back in the 60s when the man went on the moon. Okay.
Yeah.
So it must have been a political move from Kennedy back in the days to actually say within 9 years, we're going to go on the moon. But you know what? They did.
Yeah.
I mean, if the man with the limited resources they had at that time, limited technology, actually managed to go on the moon and come back, that's the most important bit, possibly, we can do anything. The world has jumped when COVID started hitting, in the pandemic, and we all adapted super quickly. But, with, all the, maybe it wasn't a perfect transition, but now we have a new normal. It is possible. We are resilient as a species. We have the possibility to change quickly. And one thing that I absolutely find inspirational is what Christiana Figueres, who was basically the architect of the latest agreement on climate change. She wrote a book and she said, I'm a stubborn optimist because there is no alternative. And it's true, if you think about it, if we want to keep on living on this planet, either we start working towards it and we are stubborn optimists, or we just don't, in which case we cry in a corner for the rest of our lives, which sound quite sad. So we just need to commit to it. Now, it might not be perfect, and it won't be perfect. Nobody's perfect. Nothing is perfect. But we need to start thinking in terms of what is the new normal. And the new normal is not going around with a mask, which I hope, is going to stop at some point. But there can be a better new normal, new normal where we are actually working in harmony with nature. And I'm going to be a bit tree hugger here, but because simply we don't cause harm on the other side of the world and we just close our eyes because we don't see it with our, the thing is we need to ask ourselves certain questions, which might be hard to answer. But once we have the answer, it's difficult to go back. It's difficult not to think, okay, when I do, when I work in a normal way, normal within brackets, what is my impact? Or how am I contributing if I want to be even positive? And there is another resource that people might be interested in watching, is a movie called 2040. I don't know if you watched that.
I haven't seen it.
Which is quite nice, and it's not scientific in any way. It's actually a guy trying to look at solutions that we got right now to help his daughter, who is a little girl at this point, live in a better world in 2040. So that's why the movie is called 2040. And I love it because the guy doesn't know anything about sustainability, but he goes around the world looking for solutions that we can use right now. And there's plenty of solutions.
Yes,
it's the commitment that is missing across the board, but the solutions are there, or at least the majority of them are there. So that's why I'm optimistic, because we're not waiting for the silver bullet. We're not waiting for a perfect solution to come from technology, although there is a lot of talking about geoengineering and weird ways of capturing carbon. But actually, we've got plenty of solutions in the algae, in the soil, in ways of reducing our consumption and capturing carbon at the same time. They are already here now. So we just need to put our act together, that's all.
Yeah, that's something that I've realized from doing this podcast and talking to people, is that pretty much all the technical solutions that we need are available to us. We have the technology. Some people like Elon Musk are waiting for the big carbon capture innovation, but that's another conversation. And there's studies you can read, like the Centre for Alternative Technology in Wales have a report called Zero Carbon Britain, where they lay out very clearly how with existing technology, the United Kingdom can reach carbon neutral any time it wants, basically. So it is that question of, well, why aren't we doing it then? And that's, I guess, where these sort of soft skills and the interpersonal stuff comes into it,
I think I mean, sustainability professionals, or even people that have a passion or an interest for sustainability, we have a big, big responsibility, guys, because we know that this is possible. We know that there is a better way. We know there is common sense. So we have the responsibility to let the rest of the world know and to put pressure. And, even if a kid of 16 at that time, Greta Thunberg, managed to move the world, and now most countries have at least a zero carbon target. Whether we will reach those or not, I don't know, but it definitely came from a little kid. If she has the way of actually causing a stir and getting governments to listen, we that have the knowledge, supposedly we have the technical knowledge, and we know that this is possible, we have a huge responsibility to shout from the rooftops and really use our soft skills, I would say. So maybe not shout from the rooftops, but actually talk in a very, in a nice way to people, engage with people, involve them, show them the benefits, create that rapport. Don't come into a room for a meeting. Well, good old days of rooms and meetings, but don't come into a Zoom call. Don't come into a Zoom call thinking, I know it all, they have to do what I say. You have to start shifting towards a more human relationship. And I think when people start telling stories, for example, which is a big point of selling ethically, is actually telling stories, showing, how others have done the things that we want our clients to do. When we start using these techniques, we will see the shift, because we will start to be trusted more. We will talk a language that others understand. And as a consequence, 9 out of 10, you will be able to sell those solutions to your clients.
Yeah, just as you were talking, I was thinking that it's interesting how we've had such a, positive impact from the sort of civil disobedience of like Extinction Rebellion and the schools protests. So obviously is that's like sort of shocking people, and is sort of using the sort of negativity of blocking a street or protesting to get people to take action. When you're a professional talking to clients, that kind of thing, you can't really use that same tactic. You have to take a much different approach.
No, and you're right. And I think I was talking about that with some clients the other day. There are two school of thoughts for sure. One is the shocking, negative, doom and gloom, which tends to do exactly that. So shock people, and he has his place. To be fair, it's like watching Blue Planet 2 and seeing how the fish is dying because of the plastic that we throw into the sea. You need a bit of shock to start
Yes.
action. But then there is the biggest piece, which is, okay, what do we do now? And what is the plan here? What are the options? How do we create that better world that we're all dreaming of? And that's what we can do as professionals. That's where the action comes, where the doom and gloom, as I said, has its place, but it paralyzes you as well. Lots of people are suffering from eco-anxiety because of that. Well, I'd rather think positively and think, okay, the solutions are here. Let's move on and do them and put them into place.
Yeah, very well said. We had a chat before the podcast recording, and something you said to me, which is quite, I want to get into a bit more, is you said that around sustainability, the questions we ask are the most important thing, because we can't learn everything there is to know, and so you sort of have to start by asking the right questions.
Absolutely. It sort of goes back to, having a bespoke solution for every problem that you have. Is really, again, going back to our profession, what questions will you ask your client to understand exactly what the problem is? Sometimes a client think they know what they want or what they need, but they might not. So depending on the questions you ask, you will find out whether that's the case. You might spot opportunities that you wouldn't have spotted otherwise. You might spot risks that you might not have seen otherwise. So asking open questions is usually the best possible starting point. Open questions, I mean, what, who, why, how, not simply something that they can answer yes or no to. Because by elaborating a bit more around the issue, so that's when you can spot an opportunity or, again, spot a risk that, again, you can address with sustainability. So ask better questions and listen. That's the other thing. Listen attentively. We're all too distracted these days. And, I know I sound like a granny, but it's so true. So in a meeting, it's very, very important to focus. I know it might be boring sometimes, but it's very important to focus and really and capture what is not being said, I would say, what's hanging in the background that might not be said. And that's why I miss face-to-face meetings, because you could see the way people behave and move, and that tells you a lot about the status of their mind. And these are all important elements. Even though you might be technical, these are all important elements to understand whether the client is on board or not, whether you need to explain better. They might not tell you that they don't understand, but they might show with their body language. So these are all important elements of communication that we might be missing at the moment.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. There's something about, doing meetings over video, especially with multiple people, that is like so much more exhausting than being in a real meeting, because you're sort of having to focus so much. You don't get all the body language, all the little visual cues and everything. But,
exactly.
Well, we'll see how much it becomes the new normal after this. Also, I would like us as professionals to avoid the 100-slide death by PowerPoint approach, where you just you go into a meeting with a client and you just shower them in visuals and graphs and all the information, and then by the end of it, most people are asleep. And
well, but that's us trying to show off our incredible knowledge and our powerful company. So whatever we come, whatever idea we have about ourselves. And I'm not pointing the finger, because I was one of them as well. So, it's just that's why I'm such an advocate of storytelling, like we were saying before.
Okay.
Storytelling means literally try and tell a story, which is not once upon a time, but is how others have addressed the same issue before, for example. So a case study is the most overlooked thing ever, but it can be actually the key to any presentation. because you have there the opportunity to get your client to relate to the problem, to see the solution with their imaginary, with their imagination, and human beings think in visuals and think in stories, and they understand stories and relate better to stories. An example that I always give is when you watch a TED talk, the beginning of possibly every TED talk is a story. And they start, let me tell you a story. And then often what you remember is actually that story, not what happened afterwards or what is the key message of the TED talk. But that's what the power of stories is. So it takes just a little bit of thinking again. It's just been a bit more intentional when you put together a presentation to incorporate examples and stories, even from other industries, so they don't have to be necessarily all sustainability related, if they are relevant to the point. And then use as little words as possible. Use graphics, use data, I would say like a pinch of salt, very, very little. Because again, data for most people, they don't make any sense. Or,
it's hard to relate to.
Exactly. So try and weave a story into what you're saying and show them how others have done it. For example, that's the easiest, to get them to see it with their mind.
That's a good point, yeah. And it doesn't have to be cheesy,
No, not at all. The classic case study, but just done in a way that can show the advantages of using a specific solution. That's, again, it's not dragon and princesses and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Before I move on to the final question, was there any other sort of topics or points you wanted to bring up while we're here?
I would say probably one thing that I said at the beginning when we said, if I don't have any sustainability knowledge, how can I start? I'd say just start. I wouldn't just to highlight the world needs you. It's like in the war back in America, the world needs you. We need all the people possible. As I said, we have a responsibility. Just start from somewhere. Just maybe, follow people on LinkedIn that you admire, listen to podcasts, learn about it, try and be curious about sustainability. See how you can incorporate it in every possible way, even if it's just small stuff at the beginning, maybe choosing your materials in a different way, thinking about the life cycle or whatever. But start, just start. Don't let time pass by, because we, as much as I am a stubborn optimist, we really need to move on and crack on and do it.
That's a great point. And, climate change, zero carbon, these are all challenges that we haven't solved yet and have never solved before. So in a way, everyone is learning, even the top experts.
Absolutely. And plus, the world is moving towards that direction anyway. Sooner or later, you will be obliged to know about this. You will be forced. So you might as well go ahead of the curve if this is not something your company is doing at the moment or you are doing at the moment. And just start. Just start.
Yeah, good point. Future-proof yourself as a professional.
Exactly, future-proof yourself. Yeah.
Have to do it eventually. So the final question that I ask all the guests is, we're at a pivotal moment in terms of climate change. As you said, we're now only have really a few decades to make a really meaningful change of course. And so, from your perspective, what do you think needs to be done, or what would you like to see happening over the next few years?
We definitely need a change in mindset. We definitely need people to be on board, even if it's not perfect. It's sort of echoing what we just said. We can't wait for everything to be there, all the solutions to be lined up nicely for us. So we just need to do it. We needed to commit to it. It's like being vegan, for example. I'm vegan, but when I go to Italy, sometimes it's just hard to find vegan food that is not just vegetables, like literally salad. So I do have now and then something that is not strictly vegan, never meat, but maybe something with cheese in it or something, just also not to offend my mom. But the point is, I'd rather be 99% vegan than not doing it at all. And that's
Absolutely.
me. But I think the world needs just more effort, more commitment. And again, guys, we did it with COVID. We committed to a different way of living. We were forced to do it. Why do we have to reach the point of being forced to do, sustainability, which is probably what's going to happen, is going to be imposed by law, is going to be imposed at different levels. So let's just embrace it as a beautiful common sense solution to our common problems. And I would say, yeah, that's the thing. We need to commit. We need to just start.
Yeah. Even if it's only little steps, or even if it's imperfect, just make a start, and then the next step becomes easier.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Virginia, thank you so much. I've learned a lot from this, and I think it's going to be really useful for listeners. Do you want to tell us how people can find you online?
Yeah, absolutely. I love LinkedIn. Like I said before, I'm on LinkedIn. So you can find me there, Virginia Cinquemani. And and also our website, thegreengorilla.co.uk, where you can see what Green Gorilla does, our courses, our programs, and various bits and bobs. So lots of free material there, lots of videos, lots of hopefully useful resources to grow in this space.
Excellent. Well, I'll put links to all that in the show description so people can find that quite easily. And thank you so much. This has been great.
Thank you for having me. It was fun. Thank you.